Hello there, and welcome to another Why You Lost. This one, the Chaos versus those damn dirty rats. Thanks to Archaon for sending me this replay as well. Let's have a look at how he's done fucked it up. So he's rocking the Chaos, a faction that used to be considered fairly weak, but in the past few updates they've gained some love and they are fairly decent now. Facing a very large Skaven army though, although it's very much conventional Skaven these days. Lots of Skaven slaves, maybe some clan rats, and then a bunch of ranged units. His front line though is 5 units of Chaos Marauders. So cheap and cheerful front line, although not that cheerful probably. Got some Summoners of Rage, big Dragon Ogre boys, and some normal Dragon Ogre boys, so lots of Dragon Ogres. And then 2 Hell Cannons. Now this, I think, is the questionable part of his army, bringing 2 artillery pieces against a faction that is very good at shooting down artillery pieces. But we'll see what he can do with those. He also has Archaon as his lord, with a couple of fiery spells of course, and an exalted hero on a horse, perhaps acting as a bodyguard. He seems to be going around with Archaon. And then 3 units of Warhounds scattered around for those cheeky sneaky flanking vanguard attacks. So let's kick it off and see what the hell went down. So Archaon's army, fairly simple in design, but perhaps a little bit confused on what it's trying to do. Is it rush? Is it ranged? It doesn't really seem to know, and that can be a problem. The enemy's army is typical Skaven, as I said. Crappy front line of Skaven slaves, lots of Skaven slaves all over the place, so lots of things to get in the way, but of course, they do break very easily. The only tough melee unit he seems to have is the old Council Guard. These are very good though, very versatile as they are unbreakable, armoured, and stabby on the large stuff. There are Jezzails around, so these are very good at sniping down artillery pieces. If he focus fired his few Jezzails on those Hell Cannons, they probably go away pretty quick. He's starting to move though, instead of firing. Looks like he's trying to get a better position for his shooty rats. He's also got Gorich in there. He's taken some shots at the Lord and Hero. He very wisely hides them behind this rock. Nice use of cover there. There's really only one game plan for Chaos when fighting the rats, and that is to rush them, because they're likely going to outrange you. They got a lot of strong ranged units, missiles, artillery, you name it, they've got it. Chaos only got the Hell Cannons and the Skirmish Cav as their missiles, so very inferior in their abilities. But here's our first major problem. We got the Dragon Ogres back defending the Hell Cannons, it seems, and the rest of the army has moved up. So we got this small group of troops here, and then a few coming in around the sides. But overall, this stuff isn't worth very much. So this is like, what, probably a couple of thousand worth of funds taking on an entire army. And back here is where the money is. These Dragon Ogres probably worth about 3,000 or so. The Hell Cannons 2,000. So we'll call that 5,000 of his funds is sat back here, not getting into the fight. Although I guess the Hell Cannons are firing, but the Lord and Hero also aren't in the fight right now. So it's pretty much maybe like 4,000 funds of Chaos Marauders and Hounds, although that's probably being generous, versus an entire Skaven army. So that's like 12,000 odd funds. Yeah, 4,000 versus 12,000. Who's going to win that fight? Right, we need to fight the 12,000's worth of army with our 12,000's worth of army. If we split them up too much, they'll just beat up our army in small parts. He's doing okay though here with the dogs. He's managed to get rid of some of the Rattlings and the Jezzails, I think. So nice work with the doggos, getting a little bit done with those. Chaos Marauders fighting their way through Skaven slaves and the Council Guard perhaps, but the Dragon Ogres is what really needs to be up here now. At least one of them. If you really want to defend, you could leave maybe the normal Dragon Ogres back, but that seems like overkill. They're a very expensive unit to leave back protecting artillery. It's not really ideal. They could be up here smashing on some of the large stuff. There's these raw Rat Ogres here. Could be taking on those. I think there's some regular Rat Ogres somewhere. Here they're wavering, so they could get rid of those very quickly. Gorich as well, who's been pounded, possibly by the Lord and Hero. But they could finish him off very quickly. The Lord as well, Throt. They could put some damage on him. So there's lots of targets for them to be smashing to pieces right now. But they're not. They're just chilling at the back protecting Hell Cannons. And the other problem with bringing artillery against the Skaven is that they don't very often have great targets to shoot at. Skaven slaves and clan rats not really worth the expensive powerful artillery ammo. The Council Guard you could shoot, you can try and shoot their missiles, but they're kind of spread out, so it makes them a little bit less effective against those. But all you really need to bring against the Skaven is something that can mow through Skaven slaves very quickly, typically in the forms of infantry. In this case for the Chaos, you could bring Chaos Spawn or even Forsaken. They'd be able to slap their way through these Skaven slaves or even clan rats pretty damn quickly, whereas Chaos Marauders aren't much better than clan rats, so feels like you're missing an opportunity if you don't bring like a damage dealer frontline. Dragon Ogres though have moved up finally, teaming up with the Lord and Hero. That little power ball could bounce around all over the place, taking out whatever it touches. There is a lot of Skaven stuff left though, and Archaon and the Exalted Hero both taking a fair pounding. I think they were fighting Throt and Gorich a little bit, so bit of a character off. But here we can kind of see the problem of dividing your army. All the Chaos Marauders are pretty much run away and routed now, which leaves the second part of his army kind of outnumbered. Gorich diving into the middle here. He could get jumped on by both characters. Try and get rid of him nice and quick. Also, the Summoners of Rage. They could kill Gorich super quick. Missing an opportunity here. Summoners of Rage are an anti-large unit. They should look for large units primarily. First and foremost, if there's one available, take the large unit. Don't fight infantry. Especially as the infantry of the Skaven is super crappy. Skaven slaves, honestly, literally just ignore them. Pretend they're not even there. Run around them. Go through them if you have to. But you don't really need to put effort into killing them. Because even if it's only the Skaven slaves left alive at the end of the battle with full health, if you've got Dragon Ogres, you're probably going to be fine. Take away his threats. The Rat Ogres, Throt, Gorich, the Jezzails. Get rid of all that stuff and you've won. It's just then a case of mopping up the little Skaven slaves that are left. He's doing okay though. He's putting up a fight. By no means is he getting stomped on. Although I do feel like he's very lucky that the enemy didn't bring any wolf rats, which are pretty much an essential part of any Skaven army these days, as they're the fastest thing they have, so they're great for flanking, great for getting after artillery, which is what they would have needed to do here. And another problem we might be seeing here is that his army was quite small, and against the Skaven that can be a problem when they've got a lot of units left that have all routed and run away and they're spread out all over the place like here. It's hard to chase them off and catch them and not get shot at by another one or attacked by different ones all over the place. His opponent, though, is an absolute mad lad, charging Throt into the Summoners of Rage. If there's one unit you don't want to charge a large unit into, especially your Lord, it's the Summoners of freaking Rage. But he is actually going to try and get him out of there. He's not completely insane. He's got the Council Guard into the Summoners, so that's a good matchup for him. He may have just been using Throt to hold those Dragon Ogres there for a second. He's now going to go after Archaon, who's pretty low on the health. And that is probably going to be the end of Archaon. He is being shot by Jezzails as well. And with the fall of Archaon, it's probably going to be the fall of this game, which is very close though. The favor bar is still in the middle. It's not leaning towards either side particularly, so it's all to play for at this point. But with Archaon about to go down, it's going to be very hard to recover from that. He's got the Summoners trying to get those Rat Ogres. The Hell Cannons have been jumped on. Archaon's routed, Archaon's dead. And that is probably going to spell the end for the Chaos. But a valiant effort all the same. I think he definitely could have won this if he'd brought maybe his Summoners of Rage up with the rest of the army at least. And maybe could have used his Warhounds to try and chase things off a little more. I'm not sure if he was, I didn't catch that. But he used them well to get rid of the missiles. But they were still around at the end, so they could have been good for chasing stuff off, like the Rat Ogres and the missiles. But not a bad performance all the same. I think the issue here mainly was in the army composition, but we'll look at that in a sec. Hell Cannon's doing some fair work though. He did get the money out of those, even though I would say they're probably not the ideal unit to bring. Archaon doing some good work. Not much from the Marauders. Not much from the Doggos. Bit of work from the Dragon Ogres. Fairly decent job. And then one of the Hell Cannons doing pretty well. Then his enemy, Throt doing okay. Gorich doing okay. Council Guard doing some work. Skaven slaves are Skaven slaves. Stopped him getting too much value out of his missiles, which was good work. And also the monsters not doing too much either. So, did well to take care of some of the Skaven threats, the missiles especially. Kept those Rat Ogres in check. They didn't get to do too much either. But still, missing a few opportunities. And I think most of the problem here was in army composition. So, let's have a look. Now, this is Artyom's army. His boys that were looking to bonk some rats on the head. Let's start off with the Lord, Archaon. Always a good choice, a solid pick. Nothing wrong with Archaon at all. On his horse, of course, is pretty essential. Abilities, he had Kindle Flame, which is a good choice because it does that extra damage. Don't need Foe Seeker really. Stand or Die is probably a good ability to take. I think I'd probably take this. Melee Defense and Leadership can be very useful, especially in the late game. Could have dropped that on his hero himself and the Dragon Ogres as well, so that could have been useful. Spells, he just had Burning Head and Fireball, which is fine. That's all you need. Burning Head especially good against those lightly armored rats. It can tear through them pretty good. And Fireball good against Throt maybe, who's hard to catch. You can at least spam fireballs on him. As he is regenerating, he will take the extra damage. For an item, he has the Crown of Domination, which I don't think is really necessary. It gives immunity to psychology and leadership to units in range, but I don't think that was much use here, as the Skaven don't have a ton of fear and terror causing units, only the monsters really. And Archaon wasn't really fighting alongside his front line or anything, so no one was really benefiting from this. This is probably more use against the undead, where fear and terror is very present. So I probably could have saved the money on that. And the Exalted Hero, not really sure he was necessary here. The Skaven don't really goon squad up on you too much, so Archaon doesn't really need that protection, as he is pretty tough himself and has the horse so he can get out of there. I'd say that money could have probably been better spent. Although maybe he could have been useful for trying to harass missile units and stop them from firing, or just getting into them and killing them, perhaps. But like I say, could have been better spent, I think. Frontline of Chaos Marauders is okay and is usually the typical go-to Chaos frontline, just kind of cheap and chaffy. But against the Skaven, because their frontline is so shit, you can really just take advantage of that and crunch through them with some of the better Chaos Infantry or monsters. And then he's got the 3 units of Warhounds. These are a great pick, as always, against the Skaven. Good for chasing down those skirmishers or weapon teams, or chasing off routed units, because obviously the Skaven can be pretty annoying when they keep coming back. Dragon Ogres, a good pick, but maybe the Summoners of Rage were a little bit overkill, as Skaven monsters aren't too hard to get rid of. Normal Dragon Ogres could probably put away most, if not all, Skaven monsters. But I don't think it's a bad pick by any means. The Summoners of Rage are always going to be very useful. The Hell Cannons, I think, with a mistake here. It's a lot of money to put on artillery that isn't greatly useful against the Skaven, and the Skaven are best off being rushed because you can run through them pretty easy if you go hard and aggressive. So we're going to get rid of those 2. We're also going to get rid of the Exalted Hero. Everything else is okay though. I think we can keep this. We've now got some money freed up though that we can get some other stuff with. So what I would have maybe done instead is beefed up this front line so we can punch through those Skaven slaves nice and quick and get after everything in that back line, no problem. Chaos Spawn can be a great choice for this. They are unbreakable. They're good at slapping down lightly armored stuff. So a couple of units of those would have been able to bat those Skaven slaves out of the way. Maybe an extra one as well. There we go. 3 units of Chaos Spawn, 4 units of Chaos Marauders. There's a front line that's going to smash through Clan Rats, smash through Skaven slaves. Plague Monks as well, they'll be able to beat down because they're lightly armored. So that could have been a good call. Everything else I think would be pretty much fine. You got the anti-large there in case of Rat Ogres or Hell Pits. You've got the Doggos for chasing down missiles. So that would have been a pretty good Skaven smashing army, I think. Although we still got some money left over, we could bring a Manticore as well, because Manticores have terror, which is very good against these low leadership factions like the Skaven. You could fly that thing around, drop it down on some Skaven slaves or some Clan Rats, and they'll probably rout pretty quick once they've taken a bit of damage. So that could have been a good pick. A nice mobile option as well, could harass missiles too. So there you go, that could be a nice Skaven smashing army, which I think that other guy would have had no chance against if he'd had this extra killing power on the front line. Another option you could go with, I do personally quite like, Forsaken frontline. Forsaken are a bit of a squishy unit as they only have 20 melee defense, but they hit hard and they run very fast. So they'll run up on Skaven front lines very quick. They'll slap Skaven slaves out the way like it's going out of style. And they'll also be able to catch a lot of the weapon teams and things like that. So they could be very good, although a little bit more vulnerable as they don't have a shield, so they could get blasted down by missiles a little bit. But as long as you get them to that front line nice and quick, they should be able to put Skaven slaves and Clan Rats away and then get after missiles. Of course, you've got the Warhounds and everything else that can harass, so there's plenty of potential with this army. We could maybe mix around though. What else could be useful here? Maybe some Skirmish Cav. Always a good choice to have for the Chaos. You can put some missiles on stuff. They can shoot monsters. They can run down missile units if they need to. So those could be an option. We still got some funds left. Could get some stronger anti-infantry units. The Mirror Guard. They'll probably crunch through most Skaven infantry. And that I think is really what was missing from Archaon's army, is that he didn't have any great anti-infantry. He only had the Chaos Marauders, no more elite stuff that's good at killing stuff quickly. He only had the kind of slow and low damage output Chaos Marauders, where we really needed some big anti-infantry power. He had the Dragon Ogres, but they're anti-large, not so much anti-infantry. Could have bought some Trolls instead. Good anti-infantry in those. Mix those in with a few Chaos Marauders. There's another option. So yeah, I think you get the idea, right? It's good to put some damage dealing power on your front line against the Skaven, because usually Clan Rats and Skaven slaves are the front line. You don't really see Plague Monk front lines, you don't really see Storm Vermin front lines. It's all the cheap crappy stuff. You can punch through that very easily with some anti-infantry killing power up front. So there you go. Some rat bonking ideas for the Chaos. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.